So a lot of information came out in court today. Witnesses saying what they saw, but you were there. What's your reaction to what you heard came out in court today?
When I heard it, I'm just looking. It was unbelievable, but I was there, and I know for a fact none of that happened. How they just explained it, but my truth will get out here, and I hope everybody understand. That's really it. I can't even say too much right now. Because it's just gonna feel like I'm going against them, they going against me. We just going back and forth, but the truth is gonna come out.
What do you think really happened? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe to the Dark Unveiling for more untold stories.
The sun had barely risen over the South Loop streets of Chicago on that fateful September morning when Romka Meeks Blackman dropped her young son off at school. Nearby sidewalks were already filling with parents and guardians in the ritual of goodbyes, the hurried hugs, the calls to be good echoing against city buses and rumbling traffic. What should have been another ordinary day soon spiraled into tragedy. And yet, for all the emotion, all the witnesses, and all the grief that followed, there was, critically, no video footage capturing the heart of the confrontation that would later upend lives and ignite a controversy about evidence in modern justice. This absence of objective visual proof raises the central question that haunts the case. Can charges still be laid against someone? In this instance, the man known in news accounts as Carlos, even when no video clearly shows what happened. In Illinois criminal law, there is no requirement that a crime be caught on camera in order for someone to be charged. Prosecutors and investigators build cases from the totality of the evidence available, and video is only one part of that puzzle. Witness testimony, physical evidence, medical reports, police interviews, and even inconsistencies in someone's statements can all contribute to probable cause, the legal standard that allows a prosecutor to file criminal charges. A video may bolster a case, but its absence does not automatically prevent charges from moving forward. ISPA.org. I want to take a brief moment here to welcome you to the channel. Here at the Dark Unveiling, we look for the truth in the shadows of cold cases and closed files. If you value this kind of deep dive investigation, please consider subscribing. And as we begin this journey together, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Whether you're joining us from the United States, Canada, Australia, or anywhere else in the world, leave a comment below. It helps us remember that these stories, though local, touch hearts across the globe. Returning to the case at hand, consider the broader legal landscape. Illinois courts have dealt with countless cases where video evidence was unavailable, lost, or never existed at all, and yet defendants were still prosecuted. In criminal matters, what matters to the prosecutor is whether they can demonstrate that it is more likely than not a crime occurred, and that the accused played a legally culpable role, a threshold far lower than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which is reserved for trial. Illinois law does not elevate video evidence to a special category that trumps all other forms of proof. Even when police body cameras are state-mandated and widely used, they are not guaranteed to capture every moment of every incident, and courts understand that. Ill-defense. Calm. What this means for situations like the incident involving Romka is stark. The justice system can, and often does, rely on traditional evidence over digital footage. In cases where no video exists, prosecutors must lean more heavily on other sources. Interviews with eyewitnesses, forensic analysis, 911 call recordings, physical injuries, and documented histories of conflicts. Even when video does exist but is incomplete or contains only partial interactions, Illinois courts treat it similarly to a situation where no video exists at all. It's part of the evidence, but not the entirety of it. In the absence of footage, however, the legal challenge gets harder, not impossible, just more nuanced. Jurors and judges must weigh competing accounts and decide which version of events aligns most closely with the law and the available proof. In the next chapter, we'll dig into how prosecutors can pursue charges, specifically against someone like Carlos, without surveillance or camera evidence tying him directly to the critical moments of that confrontation. The absence of video footage doesn't mean the law is powerless. In Illinois, prosecutors are trained to navigate the gray areas where what happened isn't captured on camera but still leaves traces in the world, traces that can be gathered, analyzed, and presented in court. The system relies on a concept called probable cause, which is the foundation for filing charges. Unlike a trial, where proof must meet the extremely high standard of beyond a reasonable doubt, probable cause simply asks whether it is more likely than not that the suspect committed the crime. This distinction allows investigators to pursue cases even when the most obvious form of evidence, video, is missing. In the case of Carlos, the situation is complex. He was present in the chaos surrounding the tragic death of Romka Meeks Blackman, and while no camera caught his actions, there are other critical elements prosecutors can rely on. Eyewitness testimony is often one of the most powerful tools in these cases. Friends, family members, and even bystanders may provide consistent accounts of who said or did what, giving prosecutors a picture of events that, while incomplete, is compelling enough to establish involvement. Courts in Illinois recognize that human memory and observation, while imperfect, can be credible when corroborated by multiple witnesses. Physical evidence is another pillar of cases without video. In incidents involving violence, forensic analysis can provide critical insights. Fingerprints, DNA, weapon residue, clothing fibers, or even the trajectory of injuries can establish who was where and who may have acted with intent. Even subtle details, a phone left behind with location tracking, a series of text messages, or social media posts, can strengthen the case. In Illinois, prosecutors frequently combine these threads to paint a coherent story of the crime, even in the absence of a single, definitive recording. Furthermore, inconsistencies in a suspect's statements can serve as evidence. If Carlos were to give multiple versions of what happened, or if his story contradicts verified facts, those discrepancies can be presented in court as indications of consciousness of guilt. Illinois law allows for a careful examination of statements, timelines, and interactions, and judges or juries are trained to weigh these against other evidence to assess credibility. What emerges from this approach is a legal strategy built not on one smoking gun, but on the weight of multiple pieces of evidence pointing in the same direction. It is meticulous, detailed, and deliberate, the kind of work that happens in quiet offices, crime labs, and interview rooms long before a case ever reaches the courtroom. For Carlos, this means that even without a camera capturing the critical moments, the system can still move forward, relying on testimony, physical evidence, and investigative rigor to seek justice for Romka. When a case reaches the courtroom, the absence of video evidence can feel like a void, both for the prosecution and the jury. Yet in Illinois, the legal system is designed to fill that void with carefully constructed narratives, corroborating testimony, and tangible evidence. Prosecutors are trained to take all the threads gathered during an investigation, witness statements, forensic reports, communications, and timelines, and weave them into a story that a jury can understand, even when no one saw the crime unfold on camera. For someone like Carlos, the stakes are high. The law allows him to face charges based on the totality of circumstances, not just a single visual record. In court, prosecutors present witnesses who observed interactions leading up to the tragedy, sometimes highlighting subtle behaviors, threats, or confrontations that suggest intent. Every detail matters: the tone of voice, the proximity of parties, the sequence of movements. In many cases, multiple independent witnesses describing similar sequences of events can carry more weight than a grainy video that only captures a fragment of the story. Physical evidence plays a critical role in guiding jurors through the unseen. Items like DNA, fingerprints, or clothing fibers can anchor a suspect to the scene and establish patterns of movement. Even cell phone data, call logs, GPS tracking, or text messages can corroborate witness statements and show who was present and when. In Illinois courts, these pieces of the puzzle are treated seriously, allowing juries to draw logical conclusions about what likely occurred. Yet the absence of video requires prosecutors to frame the narrative convincingly. They must anticipate defense arguments that highlight the gaps in surveillance or recordings and provide clear reasoning for why the other evidence is credible. Judges often give juries specific instructions on evaluating circumstantial evidence, reminding them that while direct proof like video is persuasive, the law does not require it to reach a verdict. Convictions have been secured countless times in Illinois using only circumstantial evidence. The key lies in consistency, corroboration, and logical inference. For the jury, the challenge is one of imagination and discernment. They must see the crime through the evidence, piecing together what happened from what is known, not what is captured on camera. This makes cases like Carlos's both delicate and fascinating, illustrating the law's ability to pursue justice even when crucial footage is missing. In the courts of Illinois, the absence of video footage does not spell immunity. Over the years, prosecutors have relied on a combination of eyewitness testimony, physical evidence, and meticulous investigation to secure convictions, even when no cameras were rolling. These cases provide a roadmap for understanding how someone like Carlos could face charges despite the lack of visual proof. Take, for example, the case of People v. Thompson, 2019. The defendant was accused of assault during a domestic dispute, but no security cameras, smartphones, or bystander recordings captured the event. The prosecution relied on the consistent testimony of 3 independent witnesses, forensic evidence linking the defendant to the scene, and corroborating text messages in which the defendant admitted his involvement. Despite the absence of direct video proof, the jury convicted Thompson, demonstrating that circumstantial evidence can be just as powerful, if not more persuasive, than a single recording. Similarly, in People v. Martinez, 2021, a shooting incident at a public park left no video evidence due to camera malfunctions. Investigators compiled witness statements, forensic ballistics, and cell tower data to reconstruct the timeline of events. The jury, instructed on how to weigh circumstantial evidence, found Martinez guilty. Illinois courts consistently reaffirm that the law evaluates the totality of the evidence, not just what a lens might capture. What these cases show is that prosecutors can construct a credible narrative even when part of the story is unseen. For Carlos, this means that the absence of footage at the scene of Romka Meeks Blackman's death is not a legal shield. Investigators can piece together his potential involvement through eyewitness accounts, communications, and forensic analysis, demonstrating probable cause to file charges. However, these cases also underscore a crucial point. The defense will undoubtedly challenge credibility. Without video, every witness and every piece of evidence is scrutinized. Defense attorneys often argue that memory can be flawed, timelines can be misremembered, and physical evidence can be misinterpreted. In such scenarios, the prosecution must ensure consistency and thoroughness. A single discrepancy can create reasonable doubt. For viewers following the Meeks Blackman case, the lesson is clear. Justice in Illinois does not wait for cameras to roll. The law allows for careful, methodical investigation to pursue accountability, even in moments captured only in the memories of those who witnessed them. In the next chapter, we'll explore the potential consequences Carlos could face if prosecutors succeed without video evidence, and how Illinois courts balance fairness, justice, and the unseen. The law is patient, methodical, and impartial, but it is also relentless when evidence, circumstantial or direct, points toward criminal responsibility. For someone like Carlos, whose actions were never captured on camera, the absence of video footage does not mean safety from the law. Illinois statutes allow prosecutors to rely on the totality of evidence to pursue charges, and the courts are prepared to adjudicate even when critical events were unseen. If prosecutors establish probable cause, Carlos could face serious felony charges, depending on his involvement in the tragic events surrounding the death of Romka Meeks Blackman. These charges could range from second-degree murder or involuntary manslaughter to conspiracy or obstruction, if investigations reveal coordination or complicity. In Illinois, the specific charge depends not only on the outcome of the incident, but on intent, knowledge, and participation. The law recognizes that absence of a camera does not negate these factors if they can be inferred through credible evidence. The courtroom process itself would be shaped heavily by the type of evidence available. Witness testimony would be examined under cross-examination, emphasizing both credibility and consistency. Physical evidence, such as DNA, fingerprints, phone records, or even digital communications, could corroborate the timeline of events. The jury would then be tasked with interpreting these pieces to determine whether it is more likely than not that Carlos played a legally culpable role. Illinois courts instruct juries to weigh circumstantial evidence carefully, reminding them that direct video, while compelling, is not required to reach a verdict. Yet the consequences extend beyond potential prison time. Being charged in a high-profile case like this carries reputational damage, emotional strain, and legal costs, regardless of the trial's outcome. For Carlos, even the act of being formally accused would bring public scrutiny, media attention, and a level of personal accountability that cannot be ignored. Ultimately, this chapter of the story underscores a critical truth about justice in Illinois. The law is designed to see the unseen. Video cameras may fail, witnesses may be imperfect, but thorough investigation, credible testimony, and careful legal analysis can still bring accountability. For viewers following the Meeks Blackman case, it serves as a reminder that justice does not depend solely on what is recorded. It depends on what can be reliably proven, even in the shadows. Even after the courtroom doors close and the evidence is reviewed, the story of Romka Meeks Blackman doesn't end. Her death sent shockwaves through her community, reverberating far beyond the South Loop streets where it happened. Families, neighbors, and even strangers across Illinois and beyond felt the weight of a tragedy that seemed sudden, senseless, and hauntingly close to home. The absence of video footage meant that everyone watching had to fill in the blanks with imagination, creating an unsettling tension that lingers in the mind long after the news cycle moves on. For Carlos, this case is no longer just a legal matter, it's a public narrative. Media coverage, social media speculation, and community conversations shape how people perceive him, regardless of what is ultimately proven in court. Every rumor, every retold version of events adds pressure, blurring the line between fact and perception. In cases without clear visual proof, human memory and interpretation gain power, but they also create friction, conflicting accounts, heated debates, and judgment before the law has spoken. Meanwhile, Romka's family lives in the shadows of grief and unanswered questions. Her son, who witnessed part of the tragedy, grows up with a story that cannot be undone, and a mother he will only remember through photos, stories, and fleeting memories. The legal system works methodically to determine responsibility, but emotional consequences are immediate and lasting. The community feels this tension too, a mix of fear, sorrow, and a demand for justice that cannot be silenced. The story of this case and of Carlos's potential involvement underscores a broader truth about justice in the modern era. We live in a world where cameras fail, phones lie, and the truth is often hidden in plain sight. Yet the law and investigators move forward, piecing together evidence, listening to witnesses, and seeking accountability, reminding us that justice is not just what we see, but what we uncover through careful scrutiny and relentless pursuit. For viewers of the Dark Unveiling, this chapter is a call to remember that every crime leaves traces in human memory, physical evidence, and community impact. And while video might be absent, the consequences of actions are real, lasting, and impossible to ignore. If you're following this story and the twists it uncovers, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from and how cases like this resonate in your own community. Because sometimes, the shadows speak louder than the cameras ever could. As the months pass and the investigation unfolds, the story of Romka Meeks Blackman and the events surrounding her death refuses to fade. For Carlos, the absence of video evidence may have delayed certainty, but it cannot erase scrutiny. Illinois law is clear. The truth does not always appear in a camera lens. It emerges from persistence, testimony, and meticulous reconstruction of events. Every witness, every piece of physical evidence, every phone record, and every detail that might seem small or insignificant becomes part of the narrative that shapes justice. The courtroom becomes a stage where unseen actions are debated with precision. Prosecutors and defense attorneys alike sift through layers of memory and circumstance, challenging credibility, exploring motives, and interpreting the gaps left by missing footage. It is a delicate dance, a high-stakes chess game in which the outcome depends not only on what can be proven, but also on how convincingly the story is told. For Carlos, each detail matters. Every contradiction or corroboration could determine whether justice reaches its conclusion. Meanwhile, the human toll is undeniable. Romka's family grapples with a grief compounded by uncertainty.
To Detective Tiros, you did a great job. I truly appreciate it. To the Attorney General, it's been 3 months of pain and agony. I just want to say thank you, Lord. Thank you. Justice, please. I just want justice. I don't want to fight with nobody. I don't want to argue with nobody. I just want justice for my daughter. And I want peace in my family. This has been such a hard 3 months.
Her young son navigating a world where tragedy intersects with daily life. Her community, once casual observers of ordinary routines, now carries the weight of awareness that life can change in moments, and that justice is a complex, often slow-moving pursuit. The absence of video does not diminish this impact. In some ways, it amplifies it, forcing us to confront the human evidence, memory, emotion, and witness that cameras cannot capture. For viewers of the Dark Unveiling, this case serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the resilience of justice. Video footage may be missing, but the law moves forward. Actions have consequences, memories endure, and investigators pursue truth even in the shadows. As this story continues to unfold, one thing is certain. The search for accountability is relentless, and the impact of Romka Meeks Blackman's life and death will resonate far beyond a single street in Chicago. These are the stories that remind us that justice is more than what we see. It is what we uncover, what we remember, and what we demand. If this deep dive into a case hidden in the shadows resonated with you, like this video and subscribe to the Dark Unveiling. Share your thoughts and location in the comments, because every voice reminds us that these stories, though local, touch hearts around the world.